Dr. Nika here. Thank you for joining us for our new episode. And today I have with me Michael Allen. Michael is a dating coach and founder of No Game Necessary, a dating service aimed at helping men in dating, which I think is really awesome because we don't often hear a lot about that. So thank you so much, Michael, for being with us.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Doctor.
Of course. And so we're going to go right into it. Let's just be honest, right? I think when it comes to dating, it's a challenge typically for both sexes. And often with the addition of COVID, we see that the challenges sort of increased a little bit more. I found, I'm not sure if you've seen this, but a lot of dating advice, a lot of dating services are often geared toward women. And I think that it either implies that men have it all figured out, or they cannot be helped, neither of which I think is true. So from your perspective, what do you find are some of the biggest challenges facing men when it comes to dating?
Well, I actually think that the biggest challenges men face in the dating game, actually, they existed long before COVID took hold, and I think they're going to continue to exist after COVID. And it's not necessarily, what to say to a woman. That's what every guy thinks. And so, what do I say to her? Or how should my body language be, or things like that. I consider those more surface level issues, but I've always felt that if you want to treat the surface level issues, you need to treat the root problems first. So root problems in this case refer to men's self-image, how they see themselves versus how the world sees them, and more importantly, how they think the world sees them, because often what they think and what actually is are two completely different things. And I think that's a big trap that a lot of guys fall into. One of the biggest things I find with my male clients is this notion that mainstream society nowadays doesn't seem to value them or their traits or their abilities unless they happen to be rich, tall, have a handsome face, and have a high social status. Basically the prototypical alpha male that you see in the action movies and on the athletic fields. And part of the problem with this glorification of this image is that so few men in reality actually possess all of these traits. Sure, they might have one or two, but to have all of them together in one package is actually quite rare. Yet the media, both the mainstream media and social media, are constantly throwing this image in men's faces, so they start to think of it as an impossible ideal to attain. And if they can't attain it, then they have no chance. So furthermore, if you look at the way people talk about your average ordinary man on TV shows, movies, social media, most of it is negative, right? They're either viewed as bumbling buffoons who can't do anything right, or creepy stalkers, or some other thing. They're accentuating the flaws, and they're hiding the strengths. What we should be doing is the opposite with these guys. We should be highlighting their strengths above all else, and that's not what we see happening today. And so you've got a bunch of guys who are out there, thinking that they're worthless, thinking that they have no value to anybody, and they feel really bad about it. And this is not the best image to be associated with. The fact is that most men are perfectly normal, natural. They just want to be able to work, live, find love, and basically live life just as anybody else would. But we do have an image problem with men in society. I don't know if you saw the Gillette commercial that was released about a year ago that just got the whole internet up in a tizzy about what's going on with men and what they do. And it's like every action they take is like somehow seen as bad or wrong. And I think that there's a lot of confusion out there as to, okay, if this is wrong, what should I do right? How can I make myself better? How can I make myself more appealing? And I think that that's where people like us come into play. Like we want to help these guys so that they are the most attractive versions of themselves when they go on dates or when they meet women, so that they're not automatically put in these negative categories that the media likes to put them in.
Right.
So,
and as you're saying, they're not putting themselves in that category mentally either, right?
Right.
When it comes to online dating, which is a big factor where image and persona and all of that stuff really comes into play, it's become the number one dating tool for heterosexual couples to meet right now. And a lot of women often complain, though, when it comes to meeting men on there, that, okay, fine. So you swipe right on somebody, you connected to somebody, you're kind of like you're encouraging, you're letting go of all those stereotypes or all those assumptions, you're ready to give love a chance, and then when you do, either the man does not initiate or doesn't respond to anything, or he responds for a little bit and then he disappears on you completely. So what tips, advice would you offer to men how successfully to, you know, really pursue women once they have identified one that they want to pursue, whether they're online or offline?
Well, yeah, sure. And one thing I just want to make clear before I get into my answer is that this is not a gender specific problem. Women ghost too.
Yes.
I've been ghosted on. A lot of my clients have been ghosted on before in the past. So this is not a gender specific thing. And what's even more surprising is that men and women, they tend to ghost each other for exactly the same reasons. The reason is that online dating has given us a paradox. On the one hand, it's done us a significant favor, right? Because it allows us to browse through and talk to hundreds of thousands of different people who we would never have ever seen or encountered if we were just going about our daily lives offline. But on the other hand, there's also a significant negative here, and that is because there are so many different options to choose from, it's created what we call the paradox of choice. Now, this is not a term that I just pulled out of thin air. This is an actual studied phenomenon by psychologists. And basically the paradox of choice is that it says that even if we found a person who we think is really great, in the back of our minds, we're thinking to ourselves, well, what if there's someone even better out there and I'm missing my opportunity with them, right? So we keep going on to Tinder, we keep going on to Bumble, and we keep swiping, and eventually we do find someone who we think might be better, and we go out with them, and we leave that first guy in the dust, right? And then the cycle repeats itself again with the next date, and so on and so on. So dating apps, they're supplying us with even a more powerful drug than romantic love, and that's just pure dopamine release, right? We become addicted to swiping the same way that people become addicted to playing slot machines in a casino, right? So if we win $1,000 at a slot machine, we want to keep pulling on that lever to see if we can win 10,000, right? And if we win 10,000, we want to go to 100,000 and then 1,000,000, right? And so no matter how good a guy or girl is, right, in people's minds with all the choices out there, we think whether or not we're missing out on the bigger, better deal.
And so that pursuit of the better, the bigger is sort of what contributes, in your view, to, again, this mutual ghosting or this mutual lack of engagement when it comes to pursuing relationships.
Yeah, it's like FOMO, fear of missing out, right? Okay, I'm with this guy or I'm with this girl, but who am I leaving on the table?
Right.
Right. And we just want to go back. We want to keep swiping. We want to keep seeing who's out there.
Right. And so, to your point, it becomes more about the process of finding somebody than actually finding somebody and being with them, right? And
yes, I definitely think so.
Your company is titled No Game Necessary, and I really like that title because I think it speaks to the stereotype or the assumption that we find often perpetuated in our society, that in order for men to be successful relationally, when it comes to romantic relationships, they need to have some sort of game, right? Some sort of, secret information about how to woo a woman and how to sort of get them. And those who are unsuccessful with dating relationships are somehow unaware or just lack knowledge of this particular secret. And I think it's something that a lot of men either believe or they fall into the trap of perpetuating, even in the way that they too can talk about some of these things. So for you, what do you find are some traps or even quick fixes perhaps that men can find themselves grasping at in order to connect with women?
Well, I think that the idea that every single social interaction that you have with a woman can be reduced to a simple formula or a simple set of equations where if you plug in one value over here, for example, a pickup line or a push-pull technique, etc., you're going to get a 100% predictable solution that will be in your favor all the time. This is a very seductive idea because it tells you that all you need to do is memorize a bunch of lines, techniques, and strategies, and if you apply them to the letter, according to how the guru tells you to, then you're going to go out and get all the women you ever wanted. But it's the dating equivalent of a get-rich-quick scheme, right? Yeah. Firstly, not all women think and operate exactly the same, right? I know this shouldn't be a surprise to people like you and me, but you'd be surprised how many people out there actually believe that. What works with one woman is not going to be what works with the next. As women, surprise, surprise, have different personalities, different temperaments, different likes and dislikes. And women are human, just like men are, right? So let's be honest. Do you want to be the author of your own story, or do you want to keep reading the book that somebody else wrote, right? So instead of trying to figure out women, right, or to understand chicks or whatever, as if women were all some, hive-like Borg thing from Star Trek, what you should be doing instead is trying to figure yourself out, right? Figure out what makes you tick. What are your likes and dislikes? What is your sense of humor and temperament? And how can you best bring those to the table when you're on a date or in an interaction with a woman, right? Instead of trying to contort yourself into some cookie cutter idea of what someone else thinks a successful man is, learn how you can be successful yourself and bring your unique strengths to the table. And if you figured yourself out and you're on a date and you still don't find success, well then, that woman wasn't right for you. And perhaps you need to look at the type of women you're dating, or maybe work on upping your conversation skills or your fashion sense or something like that. But you don't have to all be an exact replica of what some other dude thinks is successful.
Absolutely. I think what I'm hearing in that is this idea of authenticity. You be your authentic self, but I also recognize that women are their unique authentic selves as well. And so you really want to come to that woman as she is, not as you believe all women are. Because
exactly.
You may find yourself on the wrong side of that assumption.
Yes, absolutely true.
For you, is there a book, is there a website or a resource that you'd recommend that men who are watching right now to use or to refer to as they think about engaging in dating?
Well, one book that I personally consider to be my Bible through all this, and this helped me a lot when I was, learning how to date better. It's a book called Models: Attract Women Through Honesty, and it's by an author called Mark Manson. And this book completely changed my life. It helped me see interactions with women in a totally new and different way. And it's definitely something that I recommend. It's very helpful.
Awesome. That's really good. And again, I will put, as always, all the links and all the information that Michael cites here into this post. That way you have easy access to it. As we wrap up today, Michael, if you could say in 5 words or less something that, men, particularly single men, should know in the time of COVID-19 as they weather this pandemic, what would you say to them? Keep
trying and keep going. That's it. Keep trying and keep going. Just because you may not be able to meet face to face right now doesn't mean that you can't work on building up rapport and building up trust with a woman who you can eventually meet when all this is over. So keep trying. Don't be like, oh, well, I can't meet anybody face to face, so I'm not even going to do it.
Right. That's so good. And I think that could be advice that can be taken on both ends of the gender spectrum. For you, if people want to connect with you, they want to hire you, can find out more about your resources, how can they do that?
Well, I have an Instagram. It's Michael Allen, all one word, _coach. And then you can also reach me at my website at nogamenecessary.com.
Awesome. And again, those links and posts will be in this post, so you can easily find Michael and get him on your team as you figure out the very often challenging dynamic when it comes to social relationships. And dating is one of those social relationships. Thank you so much, Michael, for being here with us.
Thank you. Again, it's a pleasure.
Of course. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Until next time. Bye.